Hello everyone, I need your assistance to reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. Please click the subscribe button immediately if you like the article. What's happening in Australia? Really, are you seeing this? Because I don't believe the Australian Open has ever gotten off to such a spectacular start. The Rod Laver Arena saw more than simply a tennis match a few minutes ago. The entire globe is talking about the full-blown emotional meltdown that occurred there. In front of thousands of shocked onlookers, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese broke down in tears. This is not something you see every day. The remarks of a 20-year-old tennis prodigy rarely cause world leaders to lose their composure. However, it is precisely what took place. Sitting courtside, Albanese was startled by what witnesses are describing as a direct, meaningful, and extremely sad message from the Philippines' own Alexandria, setting off an intensely emotional moment. Eala. The details of the words are profound. The stadium was completely silent for a short while. A pin drop could be heard. It was the kind of tension that causes the air to feel heavy and nearly impossible to breathe, followed by chaos. The audience roared rather than merely clapping. Everyone started crying as a wave of thundering applause seemed to travel through the stands, relieving the strain. Everybody's faces were marked with emotions. It was unprocessed. It didn't follow a script. And it paved the way for what is expected to be Alexandria Eala's most spectacular Australian debut of her young career. But people, you are completely mistaken if you believe that the drama ends when the Prime Minister sobs. The actual nightmare and tears may stem from what the Australian Open organizers just gave Alexandra Eala on a silver platter, so that was only the prologue. We must discuss the draw from hell. We must discuss the unachievable path ahead. We also need to discuss the devastating decision that could compel Eala to choose between the historic homecoming she has been dreaming of and Grand Slam glory. Greetings from Champions Tennis again. Click like now if you enjoy the drama, passion, and brutal reality of the tennis world. Now let's get started. For a moment, let's set aside our feelings and examine Alexandra Eala's harsh, cold truth. She's in Melbourne now. She is now ranked 49th in the world, which is a career high. She recently made it to the Auckland semi-finals. She appears to be dangerous. But when this draw was announced, the tennis gods were not grinning. They were giggling. According to insiders, Eala has been given a nightmarish draw. This tournament is not something that can be eased into. There isn't a warm-up game. Her first Australian Open main tournament match. She will make her stage debut against America's Alicia Parks, one of the world's most unpredictable and dangerous unseeded players. Now, don't be fooled by the world number 100 ranking. Alicia Parks is a walking explosive. At 129 miles per hour, this woman holds the record for the fastest serve in US Open history. It's not a serve. It's a weapon. When Parks is playing well, she smacks the ball at a speed that causes you to lose control of the racket. She defeated Caroline Garcia by using her lefty spin, perseverance, and strategic point structuring to win a WTA title. Parks, she depends on pure, unadulterated strength. Eala will win if she leaves a ball short. Return an ace if Eala's serve sits up. This trapdoor match is risky. Many commentators are speculating that this is the first round's upset notice. They claim that if Eala displays even a trace of nervousness, Parks has the strength to blow the 20-year-old off the court. Let's face it, nerves will be present. She is making her debut. In the stands, the Prime Minister is sobbing. The entire globe is observing. Can Eala, withstand the pressure of an American power hitter with nothing to lose? Every second, the pressure increases. From Melbourne to Manila, every tennis expert is breaking down this match and analyzing every possibility. It is even being referred to by some as the riskiest first-round clash in the women's draw. People are treating this conflict with such seriousness. Alright, let's pretend to be optimistic. Assume that Eala has the match of her life. Assume she grinds her down, neutralizes the Parks serve, and advances to the second round. Does it become simpler? No. The difficulty increases tremendously. Waiting in 2023, When healthy, much Eva is regarded as one of the most gifted performers on tour. She's been placed as high as 8th in the world. She uses the ball to play chess rather than just hit it. Net rushes, drop shots, and slices. She is the best at throwing off rhythms. Mucha is a scalpel if Parks is a sledgehammer. To survive that, Eala would need to entirely rethink her strategy in less than 48 hours. And if, by some miracle, she manages to go past Mucha, who is probably waiting in the more difficult rounds. Coco Gauff, an American celebrity, was her former doubles partner. Can you envision the plot? Golf on Rodolver Arena versus Eala. Friends became competitors. Coco's exceptional athleticism contrasts with his lefty hardness. Coco is more than simply a friend, though. She has won a Grand Slam. She is a wall. Every point, she forces you to hit 4, 5, or 6 additional balls. Additionally, the tiger herself, Arena, appeared in the same part of the draw. The reigning champion, Sabalenka, is the woman who hits the ball with such force that it sounds like a gunshot. People, this isn't a draw. A gauntlet, that is. Sharks are waiting for a drop of blood in a row. A deep run and EA might be separated by 3 Grand Slam champions. Welcome to the big leagues, kid, the Australian Open official said, glancing at the 20-year-old Filipina. I wish you luck. However, we must go back to that point before delving further into the tennis frenzy. That stunning, world-shattering moment when the Prime Minister of Australia started crying. What specifically transpired between Anthony Albanese and Alexandra Eala to cause a seasoned politician to respond so strongly? Anthony Albanese is renowned for being a passionate and sympathetic leader who doesn't hold back. However, this was an exceptionally unfiltered expression of emotion, even for him. Millions of people have watched the video of the incident on social media. Every frame is being analyzed by people who are attempting to read lips and comprehend the context. Eala's use of her position to speak truth to power has won her praise from some followers. Some are wondering if it was proper for such a private event to take place in such a public place. However, one thing cannot be disputed. Alexandra Eala is more than just a tennis player. She is now regarded as a cultural icon. She now has a voice. And that voice will be heard whether she succeeds or fails in Melbourne. Eala has already received praise from the Philippine government for her poise and poise. Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was president of the Philippines. Called her a national treasure and that he hoped that, no matter what happened in Australia, she would make the nation proud. The Philippines. The Tennis Federation agreed, stressing that Eala has already accomplished a great deal and that the country will always support her. This type of support has the power to either uplift or depress a player. It appears to be uplifting Eala. She has accepted her status as a national symbol. She has shown that she is not playing for herself and has accepted the burden. She is performing for all Filipinos who have ever aspired to greatness. Those 20-year-olds bear the burden of a country. And despite her advanced age, she manages to carry it with grace. She represents more than just herself or even her family each time she appears in court. Over 100 million Filipinos throughout the world are watching, hoping, and praying for her success on behalf of her. Most individuals would crumble in that pressure-filled setting, but Eala appears to flourish there. This young lady has already repeatedly changed the course of Philippine tennis history. When she won the U.S. Open Girls Championship, she became the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam singles championship. She has risen through the ranks more quickly than any previous Filipino player. Despite competing against the biggest names on the grandest platforms, she has remained humble and genuine, which makes her very relevant to audiences back home. However, this story has an additional dimension that adds to the complexity and emotional intensity of the scenario. Eala is struggling through the Australian. The Philippine Women's Open, a WTA 125 tournament that marks a significant turning point for Philippine tennis, is being prepared for back home in Manila. This is the first professional women's tennis competition to be staged in the Philippines in a long time. And you know who was meant to be the main attraction? Alexandra, you guessed it. The homegrown celebrity is the focal point of the event organizers' whole marketing effort. Eala's picture appears on billboards all throughout Manila. In TV ads, she can be seen advocating for Philippine courts. The story is straightforward and compelling. Attend our champion's home game. For Filipino tennis fans who cannot afford to travel to Melbourne, Paris, or New York to witness their favorite in action, it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Here's the hard maths, though. The Australian Open lasts until the end of January. The Philippines. Only a few days after the Australian Open final, the Women's Open is set to start. She is physically unable to return to Manila in time for the competition that carries her country's name, even if I make a deep run in Melbourne and she manages to get past Parks, much Eva, possible conflicts with golf, and Sabalanca. Consider the brutal irony of that circumstance. The more successful she is at the Australian Open, the greater her international success, the more she disappoints her fellow citizens who have cheered her on when she first picked up a racket. It's a no-win situation that highlights the difficult reality of professional tennis scheduling and the unfeasible decisions young players must make. Director of the Philippine tournament. The Women's Open acknowledged the possible contradiction in a carefully worded statement. Although they sincerely hope Eala can take part, they acknowledge that her Grand Slam obligations must come first. They stress that the competition will succeed in any case, highlighting the variety of Filipino tennis skill and giving up-and-coming players a chance. Everyone, however, is able to read between the lines. The competition loses its glamour without Eala. Sales of tickets will decline. The impact of sponsorship activation will be diminished. There will be less media attention. The idea behind the entire event was to honor the advancements made by Philippine tennis. Furthermore, there may not even be a representation of such advancement. For the emotional toll must be enormous for Eala herself. Imagine spending your entire life preparing for events such as the Australian Open. Reaching the Grand Slam main draw at last, creating a path that is both tough and winnable, and then having to keep in mind that every win pushes you farther away from home. That every development in Melbourne is a letdown